Commander Jake Morrison had always prided himself on being unflappable. 20 years in the Terran Space Corps had taught him to expect the unexpected, but nothing had prepared him for the diplomatic mission to Valara Prime. The planet's crystalline. Cities gleamed under twin suns, and its inhabitants possessed an ethereal beauty that made even hardened soldiers pause in wonder. The Valarans were tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Their ambassador, Kira Velanathi, had been assigned as Jake's cultural liaison during the delicate trade negotiations. She was younger than most diplomats, with silver-white hair that cascaded like liquid starlight and eyes that held the depth of nebulae. During their first meeting, Kira had been the picture of diplomatic reserve. She spoke in measured tones, maintained perfect posture, and never let her emotional chromatophores reveal more than the faintest blue of professional courtesy. Jake found himself oddly disappointed by her rigid formality, though he couldn't quite explain why. The Valeron Council requires extensive documentation before any trade agreements can be finalized, Kira explained during their third day of meetings. Her skin remained a steady pearl white, betraying nothing of her inner thoughts. We are naturally cautious when dealing with new species. Jake nodded, reviewing the endless forms on his datapad. I understand. Humanity has its own bureaucratic hurdles. Though I have to say, your people seem particularly ... careful. For just a moment, Jake thought he saw a flash of violet across her cheekbones, but it vanished so quickly he wondered if he'd imagined it. Violet, according to his cultural briefings, indicated amusement or mild attraction. Surely not. The breakthrough came during their 5th day together. Jake had been struggling with a particularly complex cultural nuance regarding gift-giving protocols when Kira suddenly stood and walked to the window of her office. The view overlooked the capital's central plaza, where children played among floating gardens. Commander Morrison, she said softly, her back still turned to him. May I ask you something personal? Jake set down his datapad. Of course. Is it true that humans court each other through competition? The question caught him off guard. Competition? Well, sometimes. We might try to impress someone we're interested in, show off our accomplishments or abilities. Why do you ask? Kira's shoulders seemed to tense. I have been researching human customs. For diplomatic purposes, of course. Jake noticed the way her skin flickered between pearl and the faintest hint of rose. Of course, he agreed, though something in his chest began to flutter with an unfamiliar hope. The change in their dynamic was gradual at first. Kira began asking more questions about human culture, always framed as professional curiosity. She inquired about human art, music, and literature. Jake found himself staying late in her office, sharing stories of Earth's diverse cultures and civilizations. It was during one of these extended conversations that Kira made her first bold move. Jake had been describing the concept of human dancing, when she suddenly stood and activated a holographic display. Soft, melodic tones filled the room, the traditional music of her people. Would you like to learn a Valeron dance? She asked, her skin now openly displaying waves of nervous pink and hopeful gold. Jake's heart skipped. I'd be honored. The dance was nothing like human styles. It involved synchronized movements that seemed to flow like water, partners maintaining constant eye contact while their bodies moved in perfect harmony. Kira guided him through the steps, her hands warm and steady against his. Her skin cycled through colors Jake had never seen before, patterns that his briefings hadn't covered. These colors, Jake whispered during a particularly intimate moment. Of the dance, what do they mean? Kira's skin flushed deep crimson. They mean I should not be showing them to a diplomat from another species. But you are showing them to me. Yes, she breathed, her skin now pulsing with brilliant gold. I am. From that night forward, Kira's reserved demeanor cracked completely. She began what could only be described as an aggressive courtship campaign. She sent Jake gifts of rare crystals from her family's mines. She arranged for him to attend exclusive cultural events, always ensuring they were seated together. She even challenged him to traditional Villeran games of strategy and skill, her competitive nature finally emerging from beneath her diplomatic shell. The most surprising gesture came when she arranged for Jake to witness the ceremony of 7 moons, a sacred ritual rarely shown to outsiders. As the moons aligned overhead, Kira stood before the assembled crowd and began to sing in her native tongue. Jake's translator provided the words, but it was her expression that conveyed the true meaning. It was a love song, an ancient ballad about finding one's destined partner among the stars. Her skin blazed with every color of the spectrum as she sang, her eyes never leaving Jake's face. The negotiations concluded successfully, but Jake found himself reluctant to leave. On his final evening, Kira approached him with one last surprise. "I have submitted a formal request to join the cultural exchange program," she announced, her skin glowing steady gold. "I believe I would make an excellent ambassador to Earth." Jake grinned, understanding finally dawning. "And I believe Earth would be lucky to have you." As their ships prepared for departure, Jake reflected on the past weeks. He'd come to Velara Prime expecting another routine diplomatic mission. Instead, he discovered that the universe had a sense of humor. Sometimes the most reserved individuals, when they finally decided to act, could be the most daring of all. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of infinite possibilities.